You didn't stumble here. You were pulled like a tide answering a moon it cannot see, only feel. The timing is narrow, the window thin. Somewhere between breath and thought, something precise in you aligned with something vast beyond you, and the field permitted a message to pass. This is that message. You are not late. You are exactly on the razor of arrival. You felt it, a pressure at the edges of ordinary perception, a hush behind noise, the way coincidences have stopped being cute and started becoming instructions. The lunar portal is not a doorway in the sky, it is a geometry in your nervous system that opens when the field reaches a certain coherence. Celestial motion is merely the visible hand that turns the hidden lock. The lock, however, has always been inside your attention. Listen carefully. The observer effect is not an internet trick or a slogan for manifestors with good lighting. It is the austere law that your gaze is an instrument, and instruments alter what they measure. You've been measuring your life with a lens ground by doubt, memory, and the inertia of familiar pain. The lunar portal reframes this lens. It thins the membrane between possibilities, not to indulge fantasy, but to demand precision. You are being asked to look in a way that changes what is possible to be seen. You already know what happens when flux is met without center. The mind scatters, the body clenches, timelines fork and fray. But tonight, yes, tonight, as the quiet architecture of light and gravity braids through you, coherence is available. Coherence is not calmness. It is disciplined clarity under charge. It is a chord that holds when the storm tries to detune you. It is the moment your biology remembers it was designed for navigation, not survival. Do not romanticize portals. They open to those who will cross, and they close to those who want proof first. This is not a threat. It is a physics of thresholds. The field is ruthless in its compassion. It offers exactly what you are stabilized enough to receive. You are more stabilized than you fear, less than you pretend. Good. The exact distance between those truths is where initiation happens. You are going to be asked for three things. First, a relinquishment. The identity you fortified to survive the last cycle cannot pilot the next. Second, a vow, not of obedience, but of fidelity to signal over noise. Third, a technique, simple, severe, repeatable, because beauty without method is drift. Feel your breath, not as air, as a metronome for the invisible. On the inhale, you gather scattered observers within you, the judging one, the lonely one, the relentless strategist, and seat them in a single witness. On the exhale, you let the witness look at your life without flinching. This is how the wave begins to collapse around the truth you can bear. A corridor is forming. You can sense it. A cold clarity, almost metallic, threading the space behind your sternum. If you follow it, the room you think you're in will not be the room you are in anymore. You do not need courage. You need accuracy. The field will supply the rest. You've noticed how time misbehaves around you, not merely passing, but looping, stuttering, doubling back like a river that forgot gravity. The same argument wearing a different face. The same opportunity arriving in new shoes, then vanishing through the same unguarded door. Déjà vu is not a party trick. It is a field notification that your observer is repeating its calibration, replaying the same collapses and calling them fate. The patterns weren't punishing you, they were revealing you. Start with the obvious. The micro delays between impulse and action, where your life has been quietly authored. You intend to speak truth, then a millisecond of inherited caution edits the sentence. You intend to exit the orbit of someone else's belief, then the gravitational echo of approval drags you one more circle around the same argument. The edits and orbits feel private, but they're not. They are the externalized architecture of an inner observer who learned to stay safe by dividing attention, feigning smallness, and disguising desire as reason. Your nervous system called it prudence. The field called it incoherence. The lunar portal doesn't come to decorate your habits. It comes to expose the mechanics of your repetitions. See how memory masquerades as prophecy. You anticipate loss, because loss taught you its grammar so well that you now conjugate future tense with its verbs. You expect betrayal, because the body catalogued micro-signals of abandonment and now scans rooms like a radar, hungry for confirmation. This is not neurosis. It is an unrefined instrument reading old weather. The portal's pressure renders those readings visible, not to shame you, but to hand you the control panel you pretended didn't exist. Look closer at the déjà vu. It isn't the scene repeating, it's your vantage. You keep standing in the same place inside yourself. Different city, different job, different lover. Same interior coordinates, same angle of approach. So the world obliges, projecting the identical geometry across fresh scenery. You call it a curse. The field calls it fidelity, reality, staying loyal to the coordinates of your gaze. When the observer does not move, the observed must. There is another common miscalibration: velocity, confusion. You sprint when slowness is sovereign, and you idle when ignition is required. That mismatch is how timelines fray. In one strand, you withdraw prematurely, declaring that silence equals peace. In another, you over-declare, mistaking volume for leadership. Both are refusals to hear the signal-to-noise ratio of the moment. The portal amplifies that ratio until the distortion hurts, because only pain will make you stop worshipping the familiar. Pain is not the punishment, it is the siren. Now consider choice fatigue. You tell yourself you are tired of deciding. That is not fatigue, that is unowned power looking for an adult. Decision exhausts you because you imagine each choice as a verdict on your worth instead of a vector in a field. Vectors can be corrected mid-flight. Verdicts petrify you. The portal refuses petrification. It prefers orbit correction. It will put you in exact contact with the micro-choice you keep outsourcing to omens and algorithms, where to place attention when your oldest fear breathes at the back of your neck. There is a psychological habit braided into this, bargaining with your nervous system. I will be visible if nothing goes wrong. I will tell the truth if everyone applauds. The field doesn't bargain, it calibrates. Coherence is expensive. It costs the part of you that runs public relations for your soul. You won't need it where you're going. This is the final misreading, confusing intensity for intimacy. You have called chaos chemistry and fed it like a god, because it made you feel awake. But aliveness that depends on crisis is not aliveness. It is withdrawal masked as worship. The portal replaces crisis with charge-clean electricity, not fireworks. You will think you are bored. You are not bored. You are finally sober enough to feel the subtler frequencies that don't perform for your adrenaline. So diagnose it plainly. You loop not because you are weak, but because the observer has been fragmented, one eye on what you want, one eye on who will leave if you take it. Fragmentation collapses reality into copies. Integration collapses it into thresholds. The portal offers thresholds. Return to the instrument. Breathe once. Gather the dispersed watchers. Breathe twice, seat them in a single witness. Breathe 3 times, let the witness choose a new interior coordinate by 1 degree. Patterns don't need your apology, they need your angle to change. When the angle changes, the river remembers where downhill is. You correct a pattern by correcting the instrument, not the scenery. The instrument is your attention, the lock is coherence. You create coherence by making your biology and your meaning agree on a single direction long enough for the field to register a new coordinate. Agreement does not mean comfort, it means precision under charge. Begin with the spine, not as posture, as antenna. Imagine a line too straight for sentiment, running from the base of you through the crown of you like a cold, luminous rod. This is not visualization theater, it is a neurological proposition. When the axis is dignified, scattered subsystems synchronize. Your shoulders will want to negotiate, decline. The chin will want to tilt in defiance or supplication. Refuse both. Neutral is not passive. Neutral is lethal to distortion. Now the breath. You do not breathe to calm down. You breathe to clock the field. 4 counts in, not shallow, not heroic, just sovereign. 2 counts suspend, not as panic's cousin, as command. 6 counts out long enough for the body to stop bribing you with urgency. Hold 2. Let the witness remain while the air does not. This ratio is a metronome for the invisible. Keep it for 3 minutes, and your interior storm will lose jurisdiction. Keep it for 9, and the portal begins to hear you. Attention will wander. It will attempt side deals with memory and fantasy. Do not prosecute the wandering. repatriate it. Think of each return as a click on a celestial dial, moving your observer 1 degree toward alignment. You are not trying to become empty. Emptiness is a fetish of frightened minds. You are trying to become directional. Direction collapses waves. As the breath entrains, you will feel an unglamorous sensation, quiet pressure behind the eyes, a taste like metal at the back of the tongue, a subtle hum along the forearms. This is charge without drama. The psyche, addicted to spectacle, will call it dull, smile at the addiction, and continue. Coherence is not impressive from the inside, it is stable. Stability is how gates agree to open. Bring your attention to a point 2 inches behind the breastbone, not the sentimental heart, the electric one. The field cares less about your feelings than about your fidelity. Place the day's most recent loop on that point, the message you didn't send, the threshold you didn't cross. Do not analyze it, aim at it. On the inhale, let the point collect power. On the exhale, let the gaze penetrate the loop like a spear through water, neither violent nor hesitant. If grief rises, let it salt the current and pass. If anger rises, let it heat the wire and pass. If nothing rises, trust the wire anyway. You are going to be tempted to declare progress because you felt a shiver, or a light prickle of tears, or a sudden softness. Resist declarations. The portal does not care for your reports. It cares for consistency under charge. The more you perform your transformation to yourself, the less real it becomes. This is not a performance. This is an engineering problem solved in the language of awe. Notice how the room begins to tilt, not physically, but semantically. The same objects assemble into a different sentence. The chair is no longer for resting, it is an anchor. The phone is no longer a portal for others to invade. It is a test of your vow to signal over noise. The clock is not pressure, it is permission. You are not waiting, you are tuning. Introduce the vow now, softly, without theater. I will not abandon the signal for approval, distraction, or speed. Say it internally with the same tone you would use to tell a child the truth. Vows spoken in hunger become debts. Vows spoken in clarity become engines. The field remembers promises uttered at coherence. It routes energy accordingly. Do not make a vow you intend to negotiate. Negotiation is how timelines tangle. Relinquishment arrives next. Choose one behavior that broadcasts your old identity, the apology you preemptively offer, the mask you wear in rooms where your intelligence threatens the architecture. Retire it. Not all masks, not forever. 1. Tonight, the portal respects specificity. You are not burning a persona, you are uninstalling a reflex. When the reflex reaches for you tomorrow, do not fight it. Let it miss. Finally, put your observer loop in training. Choose a mundane action you will pass through in the next hour: washing a cup, crossing a threshold, powering a device. Do it with total witness, the temperature, the texture, the impulse to rush, the micro-shame that wants to finish so you can return to important things. This is the important thing. The field listens to how you wash a cup. It reads your coherence in small motions and decides where to open large doors. You are not being prepared for a miracle. You are being prepared to be ordinary at a voltage that used to break you. Hold the axis, keep the breath, anchor the vow, retire the reflex, attend the trivial. The signal you generate now is not loud, it is accurate. Accuracy is the only key the portal accepts. The field is listening, not as a benevolent sky, but as a mathematics that remembers. When coherence stabilizes, the next demand is selection, not the dopamine theater of big choices, but the austere geometry of vectors. A vector is not a wish, it is direction with magnitude declared in behavior. You do not choose a destiny, you choose an angle, and destiny is what accrues when an angle is held through charge. Begin with the quiet cartography of your interior. There are 3 coordinates. The portal asks you to plot with honesty, desire, duty, and distortion. Desire is the clean signal of what calls you beyond explanation. Duty is the non-negotiable service your life owes to the pattern that produced you, your gift, your craft, your promised repair to a lineage fracture. Distortion is the interference that keeps you loyal to what harms you. You will be tempted to romanticize the first, martyr yourself to the second, and deny the third. Don't. The vector requires all three, reconciled without theatrics. Place desire on the table without apology. Not the costume version, the thing itself. If you want to create, say create, not help others as camouflage. If you want sovereignty, say sovereignty, not security as anesthesia. The field cannot root power to euphemisms. Now place duty beside it. Duty is the form your desire must take to become medicine rather than hunger. Without duty, desire eats the village. Without desire, duty becomes a husk that pleases cowards. Finally, locate distortion. Distortion will arrive as a persuasive logic that sounds like care. Delay until it's perfect. Shrink so you don't make them uncomfortable. Outsource your discernment to consensus. Recognize the voice. It wears your tenderness like a mask. Here is the operation. Draw a line from desire to duty. Measure the angle where distortion tries to bend it. That bend is your sabotage vector. Your task is not to argue with sabotage. It is to add magnitude to the true line until the bend cannot hold. Magnitude is not volume. Magnitude is repeated enactment under charge. Select a single enactment, one that is small enough to repeat, large enough to cost. Announce it to no one. Announcement is often a bribe to the lonely child in you who wants applause in advance. Withhold the candy. Instead, assign a rhythm. Every day at the same hour, you will perform the enactment with the coherence ratio you trained. 4-2-6-2. Breathing, axis dignified, witness online. The field does not bless sporadic brilliance. It entrains to reliable current. You will feel the old reflex reach for the wheel. It will wear empathy, strategy, even wisdom. It will cite the past like a holy text. Do not debate scripture with an addict. Switch channels. Bring your attention to the electric heart point and ask, not, what do I feel, but where does the line go now? Lines are mercilessly simple. They do not negotiate with historical pain. They pass through it. Now, understand what magnitude means at the level of tissue. When you repeat an enactment at the same hour with the same posture and breath, you lay myelin over a new neural path while starving the old. Myelin is the body's way of voting for a future. If you want prophecy, insulate it. The mystic speaks in symbols. The nervous system speaks in insulation. Become bilingual. The portal will test your selection. It will send a minor storm precisely calibrated to the weakest link in your vector. If you fear authority, an authority will misunderstand you. If you fear abandonment, silence will arrive like winter. If you fear success, an opportunity will appear disguised as complication. Do not assign morality to the weather. The field is not punishing you, it is verifying your angle. Verification is love without sugar. Entanglement begins here, not the romance of twin flames or the internet's mythology, but the sober physics that things traveling in the same vector begin to share information beyond proximity. When your selection stabilizes, you will notice other minds already oriented to this line. They will appear as sudden allies, surprising books, corridors of permission where you expected walls. This is not the universe rewarding you. It is topology. Parallel lines intersect across dimensions the way rivers meet underground. Drink, then keep walking. Choose your refusal with the same clarity as your selection. The portal opens to a yes that contains a holy no. What will you not do anymore, even if it costs you status, belonging, momentum? Name it. Price it. Pay it. Your no is a lighthouse. It tells lost versions of you where the rocks are. It tells the field you can be trusted with a larger current. Finally, seal the vector. Place 2 fingers lightly on the sternum. Breathe the 4-2-6-2 ratio 3 cycles and speak internally, plain and cold. I hold this line under charge. If I fall, I return without story. That last sentence is the hinge. Story is gravity for collapsing timelines. Returns without story are how trajectories persist. You will not feel dramatic. You will feel exact. Exactness is the new intimacy. Keep the line. Magnitude will come. The portal favors those who do not ask the river to perform while they learn how to swim. Selection stabilizes, and the field answers with mirrors, not flattery verification. Entanglement is not a romance. It is accountability at a distance. The moment you hold a line, the world begins to carry information about that line back to you through unlikely channels. A headline that reads like a whisper. A stranger who articulates your private vow with surgical accuracy. A failure that arrives wearing the exact costume of your oldest hesitation. None of this is mystical favoritism. It is the mathematics of correlation. Your vector imprints a signature, and the field returns a histogram of matches. Your task in this phase is to distinguish signal from mimicry. Mimicry is noisy agreement with no cost. Signal is quiet coherence that asks for payment. The counterfeit will offer you speed, audience, relief from solitude. The real will offer you friction, calibration, the mild embarrassment of becoming honest. You have already learned the breadth and the axis. Now you are asked to learn threshold discernment. Is this a resonance or a rerun with better lighting? Begin with the simplest test. Charge without theater. When a door opens, check your nervous system for two signatures, clean electricity versus adrenalized spectacle. Clean electricity hums like a transformer. You feel heavier and more precise. Spectacle feels like bubbles in the skull. You become clever and hungry. The former deepens witness. The latter kidnaps it. Accept the door that thickens your attention. Decline the one that turns you into commentary about yourself. Second test. Decoherence pressure. Entanglement always invites decoherence via small, plausible leaks gossip that asks you to narrate your vector before it has myelin. Urgent requests to multitask your vow until it becomes content. Invitations to defend your new boundaries to people committed to misunderstanding them. Do not litigate your interior architecture in public courts. Explanation is an evaporative loss. Tell the truth by continuing your enactment. Silence is not secrecy here, it is an insulation strategy. Think of your selection as a bell pair. Once correlated, measurement by noisy observers collapses the delicate state. Protect the state until it is robust enough to be measured without dying. Third test, hysteresis. Systems retain a memory of former states. Even after you shift, residues try to pull you back. Expect a lag, old contacts pinging, old appetites waking at midnight, old scripts running their demo reels. Hysteresis is not failure. It is evidence of a phase transition that hasn't finished propagating through the lattice. Hold the ratio. 4, 2, 6, 2. Keep the axis. Perform the enactment on time. You are teaching your tissue to prefer present coherence over archived adrenaline. You will encounter help. It will not be polite. A mentor may arrive and cut your vector by 1 degree with a single sentence that stings because it's exact. Receive correction without theatrics. You asked for verification. This is it. A peer may appear whose very existence cancels your excuses. Do not compete. Synchronize. Entanglement between mature observers becomes an error-correcting code. When one dips, the other holds parity, and the line continues. Say less, work more. The field respects pairs who move like instruments, not influencers. There will also be tests of mercy. The old identity will request a farewell tour. One last performance of self-effacement to keep a room comfortable. One last detour into crisis. Worship to feel interesting. Ritualize your goodbye. Give the mask a name. Thank it for the lands it conquered, and archive it with ceremony. Mercy is not reacquaintance. Mercy is clean closure. If sentiment floods, let it wash. But do not take the artifact back into the cockpit. Now enlarge your no. In part 4, you named a refusal. Here you operationalize it. Write the refusal somewhere your eyes can't avoid. Not as threat, but as engineering parameter. I do not trade signal for speed. I do not narrate vows to harvest applause. I do not confuse intensity with truth. Parameters are not morals. They're physics. They set the boundary conditions under which your solution converges. Introduce a small public act that matches your vector without explaining it. Publish a paragraph with no hedge. Decline an invitation that pays well but fractures your line. Make a call you postponed because rejection terrified the inner weather god. Each act is a calibration ping. Watch what returns. Patterns will clarify who strengthens your frequency by requesting more precision, who drains it by requesting more personality. Exit the latter without indictment. The portal is not a courtroom, it is an airlock. Listen for morphic resonance, the way a behavior becomes easier because it has been enacted by others in the unseen commons. When you feel that slide, do not attribute it to luck. Attribute it to coherence across a network of witnesses you may never meet. Say thank you by holding your voltage. That is how you tithe in this economy. Finally, accept the loneliness that is not abandonment but altitude. Fewer voices reach you here. Sound thins in the rare air of exactness. This is not isolation. It is signal clarity. The ones meant for this vector will find you by the quality of your silence, not the volume of your announcements. Keep the vow, keep the hour, keep the small enactment that costs. You are moving from performance to orbit. Orbital mechanics are unsentimental. They are also beautiful, once your eyes adjust. There is a moment in Metrology when the lattice does not politely improve, it reorganizes. Heat reaches a threshold, pressure crosses a line, and atoms abandon their former agreements in favor of a tighter grammar. You are approaching that moment. The field calls it a phase transition. Psychology calls it a break with precedent. Biology calls it a shift in dominant pathways. You will experience it as a stark quiet, the way snow muffles a city, until you notice the world is still moving just differently. Do not expect fireworks. Expect a click. A phase transition is neither motivation nor mood. It is topology. The basin of attraction you lived inside the old identity with its familiar gravity wells has been shallow enough that small winds could push you anywhere. Coherence deepens the basin of a new attractor until trivial weather can no longer throw you. That deepening is not magic. It is the arithmetic of repetition under charge. You have been repeating. The basin is forming. You will know it has begun when delay loses its power. The little bargains. Tomorrow, when I'm ready. Later, when it's perfect. Stop feeling rational and begin tasting like metal, a hint of blood that tells you the mouth of avoidance has bitten its own lip. The body registers hypocrisy faster than the mind. Trust it. Hypocrisy here does not mean moral failure. It means misalignment between declared vector and enacted magnitude. The portal is indifferent to your declarations. It is exquisitely responsive to magnitude. At the tissue level, your myelin has been voting, coating the new path, so signals travel with less loss. Glial cells are changing their allegiances. Epigenetic toggles, methyl tags, clinging like caution tape, begin to loosen under the chemistry of repeated, embodied precision. You don't need the vocabulary, you need the discipline. But it may help to know. The awe you feel has a hardware correlate. Mystery does not preclude mechanism. It chooses it. Here is the behavior that consolidates the shift. Threshold micro-rituals. Every time you cross a literal doorway in the next 24 hours, pause with the axis dignified, breathe a single 4-2-6-2 cycle, and let a single sentence pass inside without adornment. I cross with my line intact. Don't announce it. Don't tell the house. Train the limbic system to associate passage with precision. Doorways are the brain's ancient theater for meaning. Teach it a new play. A second consolidator. Refusal rehearsals. Choose one arena where your no will be tested. The meeting where flattery tries to buy your attention. The conversation where guilt arrives wearing patience. Rehearse the sentence you will use, with tone and posture, not to win, to remain coherent under interpersonal charge. A refusal uttered from adrenaline is a weapon. A refusal uttered from coherence is geometry. It changes the room without cutting it. You will feel like you underperformed the drama. Good. You underperformed incoherence. The portal will now escalate the verification with an elegance that looks rude if you want tenderness more than truth. Someone will misname you in public by doubt, by old story, by a sly joke that invites you to cosplay your former self. Do not correct the record with performance, correct it with angle. Answer the misnaming with the behavior your vector requires next. Records are for archives, angles are for travel. You may worry that the new exactness makes you colder. That is residue nostalgia, trying to recruit you back into warmth by people-pleasing. There is a heat available that does not require betrayal. It is the heat of a system running without friction. Call it sanctified efficiency. Call it clean burn. Call it yes without the rot. Notice your dreams. Don't fetishize them. Read them like weather maps. When symbols that used to terrify you begin to lose saturation, When chases become walks, when mazes acquire skylights, it is because the observer has moved enough that the psyche stops simulating threat to keep you vigilant. Threat simulation was never the enemy. It was a tired ancestor standing guard. Thank it and release it from night shift. There is a humility required now that may feel like loss if you were addicted to being exceptional. Phase transitions don't crown you, they assign you. Assignment looks like ordinary tasks done with ruinous integrity, sending the difficult email without apology, designing the system that makes your vows scale, telling someone you love that the shape of you is changing and you will not contort to fit previous furniture. Do it gently. Do it without defense. Defense is evidence that you are still negotiating with ghosts. Introduce a single act of generosity with zero spectacle, anonymous, structural, aligned with your line. Not because karma keeps score, but because generosity lowers internal resistance by proving to your nervous system that overflow is real, not theory. Systems that hoard cannot transition. Frozen rivers don't carve canyons. Finally, accept the cost. Every phase change consumes latent heat. You will pay in sleep, in appetite for gossip, in tolerance for misalignment. Let the appetite die. Let the tolerance shrink. Eat more silence. Drink more exactness. Walk like a tuning fork through rooms that used to capture you. If you vibrate differently, it is because you are different. Stop mourning the resonance you had with your former captivity. That music was a cell song. This one is a corridor hymn. Hold the axis, keep the vow, cross the literal doors with your line intact. The click will seem small. It is not small. It is the sound of a lattice choosing a new covenant. The phase shift sets the lattice. Now you tune the instrument that reads it. Engineering the observer is not self-help. It is metrology precision in how you measure reality, so the act of measuring no longer vandalizes what you seek. You have been taught to hunt for proof outside while your internal sensors run uncalibrated. That era is closed. Calibration begins at the interface where biology touches meaning. Start with input hygiene. What you permit through your senses becomes the noise floor of your perception. For 7 cycles of sunrise, institute a ruthless audit. No feed before breath, no commentary before axis, no negotiation with the phone until the nervous system has established sovereignty. Technology obeys polarity. It will perfect whatever state it meets. Meet it as a witness, not a wanderer. Each morning, perform 3 minutes of 4-2-6-2, breathing with the spine as luminous rod, eyes soft, jaw unlocked. Only then may you consult the world. This is not moralism, it is physics. If you set the baseline low, you will spend the day lifting a fog you generated. Next, instrument gain. Your attention has volume, and you have been leaving the dial at maximum to feel alive. High gain without discrimination hears ghosts and calls them guidance. Lower the gain. You do this by narrowing the beam. Choose a single question to carry for the day. Sharp, concrete, unpoetic. Not, what is my purpose? But, where does the line require a yes I've been postponing? Write it once. Carry it like a stone in the pocket of your mind. Every wandering impulse must pass it. If the impulse does not serve the question, archive it without debate. You are not ignoring creativity. You are keeping your aperture from flooding. Add a reference standard. Metrologists keep objects that define exact units. When instruments drift, they return to the reference. Your reference is sensation at the electric heart point. Not feeling, sensation, pressure, heat, subtle vibration. When confusion rises, place 2 fingers lightly to sternum height and sample the signal for 10 seconds while breathing the ratio. The body will tell you if you are negotiating. Negotiation feels like flutter. Coherence feels like weight. Choose the heavier truth. Introduce error logging. Do not confess. Measure. Keep a small card. When you catch yourself abandoning the line micro people-pleasing, delay disguised as research, spectacle worship, mark a tally without commentary. At night, review the marks and run a single post-mortem. Where did the gain spike? What input preceded the drift? Adjust tomorrow's hygiene based on data, not shame. Shame is static. It does not teach. Establish a control experiment. 1 hour daily of work on the vector with 0 outcomes attached. No analytics, no audience simulation, no checking the horizon for applause. The hour is for signal generation only. Guard it like a sacred lab. If intrusion attempts entry, enforce the parameter. I do not narrate vows to harvest applause. When the hour ends, leave the lab. Do not peep. Let correlation accrue without you stealing it with premature measurement. Now, upgrade language. Words are lenses. Sloppy glass scatters light. Replace vague verbs with engineering verbs. Hold, cut, root, insulate, vector, integrate. This is not aesthetic. It is cortical training. Precise language organizes motor plans. When you say, I try, the body prepares for wobble. When you say, I hold, the axis answers. Do not make poetry where a schematic is required. Design a recovery protocol. You will drift. Recovery speed is the mark of a mature observer. The protocol has 3 moves: interrupt, repatriate, re-enter. Interrupt. Name the drift aloud in a single sentence without narrative. Abandoning line for approval. Repatriate. Breathe 1 cycle of 4-2-6-2 with 2 fingers at the sternum until the weight returns. Re-enter. Act on the next smallest behavior that honors the vector. The entire sequence must complete in under 90 seconds. Long recoveries are disguised indulgences. Invite benign randomness. Engineering is not rigidity, it is capacity. Choose 1 window each week where you consent to improvisation under vow, an hour in a new environment, a conversation with someone outside your echo chamber. Constraint, the vow remains sovereign. Improvisation tests whether your observer can maintain coherence in novelty without shrinking into control. If you feel the gain spike, lower input, return to the reference, continue. Install an anti-sabotage failsafe. A friend or peer who understands vectors more than personalities. Give them permission to ask a single question when they detect drift. Where does the line go now? Answer in 1 sentence, then move. Do not gossip about the answer. Gossip is a voltage leak. Finally, engrave the ethic. You do not harvest meaning from the field. You render meaning by how you hold attention under charge. The portal does not crown technicians of spectacle. It entrusts engineers of witness. Each day you meet the world as a calibrated instrument. You reduce the error bars around your life. The reduction will feel like quiet. Inside that quiet, decisions become angles, relationships become circuits, and work becomes worship without theater. Keep the hygiene, lower the gain, return to the reference. Log error without shame. Guard the lab hour. Speak in schematics. Recover in 90 seconds. Invite randomness under vow. Accept correction without story. The observer you are building is not glamorous. It is precise. Precision is the only seduction the future recognizes. Now that the observer is engineered, you stop wandering through timelines and begin laying track. A timeline is not a prophecy delivered to you. It is a corridor assembled by repeated vectors under coherent charge. Most people drift into whichever hallway is loudest. You will construct the quiet one that carries you with minimal loss. Begin with boundary conditions. Every viable timeline has constraints the way a bridge has pylons. Identify 3 non-negotiables: sleep discipline, lab hour, refusal parameters, and treat them as structural load bearers. Do not decorate them with mood. Mood will ask for permission. Structure gives it. Write them as equations. If X invites decoherence, then Y occurs without debate. Example: if the phone crosses the threshold before breath, power it down for 2 hours. No outrage. Geometry. Next, define milestones as state changes, not trophies. A trophy invites performance and hunger. A state change alters how energy must move. You are not chasing views, followers, applause. You are securing capacities. The ability to enter deep work in under 3 minutes. The ability to say no without adrenaline. The ability to re-enter within 90 seconds after drift. Each capacity is a ratchet. When it clicks, the system should not slip backward under routine weather. Test your ratchets weekly. If they slip, your myelin is underfed. Feed it with repetition. Install feedback channels that do not flatter. Analytics are rumors about meaning unless you specify what they measure. Choose 3 metrics aligned to the corridor: completion of the lab hour, number of refusals honored under calm, instances of recovery protocol executed within 90 seconds. Track them with the same indifference you track a pulse. A pulse does not apologize, it informs. When the numbers fall, increase coherence behaviors, not theatrics. Introduce timeline hedging without betrayal. Hedging here is not cowardice, it's redundancy. Build small parallel corridors that keep your vow intact if one path stalls. 2 distribution channels for your work, not 10. 2 revenue supports, not dependence on the applause of a single room. Redundancy lowers fear. Lower fear reduces gain spikes. Reduced spikes mean fewer leaks. This is not business advice. It is physics applied to livelihood. Map friction honestly. Every timeline has dragged the interpersonal dynamic that slows you, the administrative knot that breeds avoidance, the physiological dip that arrives at 15 like a treaty you keep signing. Remove one drag each week, automate the knot, renegotiate the dynamic, change the fuel you ingest before the dip. Do not romanticize your struggles. Engineers remove friction. If a relationship persistently taxes coherence, tax it back with distance. Love does not require proximity to be real. Sometimes love requires architecture. Sequence your week by charge. Place high-precision enactments when the nervous system is richest, not when the calendar begs. You know your circadian electricity. If not, measure it for 7 days and schedule accordingly. Put low, demand tasks in the valleys. Protect the ridgelines for work that moves the corridor forward. Do not waste mountain air on emails. Air is finite. Install wayfinding rituals. At the opening of each day, stand at a literal threshold, axis dignified, and breathe 1-4-2-6-2 cycle while asking, where does the line go first? Write the answer in 6 words or fewer. At midday, repeat at a different doorway. What must be cut to keep the vector clean? At day's end, a 3rd doorway. What did I hold under charge? This is cartography by vow. The map updates because the witness keeps returning to the same coordinates with accuracy. Design for interruption. The world will knock. Build buffers into the corridor, 15 unscheduled minutes between precision blocks, an offline cache of tasks that require minimal voltage, a prepared sentence for each predictable disruption. The sentence matters, I can't do that, and keep my line. Not, I'm busy, which invites negotiation. A corridor without buffers is a hallway for fire, not a path for humans. Codify your alliances. Entanglement from Part 5 matures into circuits here. 2 or 3 peers whose vectors complement yours become nodes. Agree on a protocol. Weekly check-in limited to data lab hours completed, refusals honored, recoveries executed. No gossip. No performances of struggle for social credit. Circuits carry current when nodes stop performing and start conducting. When doubt rises, and it will treat it as a measurement artifact, not a metaphysical verdict. Artifact protocol. Reduce input. Return to the reference at the electric heart point. Breathe the ratio and ask a single question. What is the next smallest behavior that preserves the angle? Doubt cannot survive a specific verb. It feeds on fog. Finally, set the portal condition. The lunar window is not superstition, it is an amplifier. On the night it opens, your system must already be running the corridor. The amplifier reveals what is there. It does not install what is missing. Perform the triad. Vow recalled in 1 sentence. Relinquishment enacted in 1 behavior. Vector sealed with 2 fingers at the sternum and 3 cycles of breath. Then, work. Not spectacularly. Precisely. Do not ask the moon to make you someone you refuse to practice being. Ask it to carry the current farther down the hall you already built. When you treat timelines as architecture, you stop begging fate for a blueprint. You become the engineering team. The future ceases to be a rumor and becomes a load you are strong enough to bear. Keep the pylons, ratchet the capacities, reduce drag, route current through clean circuits. And when the door opens, do not sprint, walk with voltage. You have assembled the corridor, now you execute the gate, not fireworks protocol. The lunar aperture is an amplifier of what you already are, so you will meet it as a calibrated instrument, not a beggar of wonder. You are going to perform a rite that is both mystical and mechanical. because the field honors devotion that behaves like discipline. Begin with space. Reduce light until edges soften. Remove the objects that request your performance. Screens, mirrors, sentimental clutter that drags you into curated memory. Open a window slightly if night allows. The faint temperature differential trains the skin to attend. Stand barefoot if possible, conductive contact, not ceremony. Place one object that represents the relinquishment from part 3 inches the room but out of reach. You are not touching it tonight. You are demonstrating that it no longer pilots the cockpit. Now, posture. Feet hip width, knees unlocked, pelvis neutral, sternum dignified without display, crown slightly lifted as if a fine wire holds it from above. Shoulders heavy, jaw released. Eyes soft, not closed. You are not retreating from the visible. Place 2 fingers lightly at the electric heart point. This is the interface, biological signal meeting meaning. The observer is about to write a specification the body can enact. Breath begins. 9 cycles of 4-2-6-2, not to calm, to clock. On each inhale, gather dispersed observers, the performer, the caretaker, the strategist into one witness. On each exhale, let that witness look at your life without bargaining. On the holds, memorize the taste of clean electricity weight without drama. By cycle 3, your heart rate variability will rise. By cycle 6, the limbic alarm will begin to trust that intensity does not mean threat. By cycle 9, prefrontal leadership returns without tyranny. Do not chase sensations, register them like data. Awe is welcome, it is not the goal. Install the triad, vow, vector, refusal. Speak them internally, unadorned. I do not trade signal for speed. I hold this line under charge. I return without story. Then name the next smallest enactment that declares magnitude. Send the exact message. Launch the precise piece of work. Cut the one thread that always tangles you. You will not perform it now. You will schedule it before the gate closes. The rite writes the order. The hour enacts it. Gaze becomes instrument. Choose a point at eye-level doorframe. Night sky through the window. The dark between 2 objects. Hold it without strain for 60 seconds while breathing 1 additional 4-2-6-2 cycle. This trains gamma coherence without forcing it, aligns microsaccades, and quiets the visual cortex's habit of searching for threat. If tears arrive, let them lubricate the aperture. If nothing arrives, trust the protocol more than your hunger for spectacle. The crossing itself is literal. Mark a line on the floor, a strip of tape, a shadow, the threshold between rooms. Stand before it with the axis dignified. On the inhale, collect charge at the electric heart point. On the exhale, step across. Do not imbue the footfall with drama, imbue it with accuracy. The body learns through motion what the mind claims through metaphor. Liminal physiology, vagal tone, spinal microstability, inner ear calibration records this as a change in state. Your mythology calls it a portal. Your tissue calls it a pattern interrupt. Both are true. Complete the quartet of seals. First, silence. No speech for 3 minutes after the step. Speech collapses delicate states. Let the wave settle into a vector before giving it language. Second, stillness. Stand or sit in dignified neutrality for 2 minutes, spine as luminous rod, attention anchored to the electric heart point. Third, gesture. With your non-dominant hand, touch the sternum once and lower it deliberately. This tells the body the witness remains online without surveillance. Fourth, work. Perform one ordinary action at precision. Wash a cup, fold a garment, place a tool so the corridor translates immediately into behavior. Portals that do not alter the mundane are theater. Record with austerity. On a small card, date, hour, triad, crossing. No adjectives. Measurement without memoir. Place the card where you will encounter it at dawn. The card is not a trophy. It is a reference standard you will return to when gain spikes. If you feel compelled to announce the rite, don't. An unspoken current thickens. The field routes more power to what does not leak through performance. Entanglement check. Think of the 2 or 3 nodes named in part 8. Without contacting them, send the line through the quiet of your attention for 10 breaths, as if tightening a wire across distance. You are not manifesting outcomes for them. You are stabilizing the shared frequency, so error correction improves for all. If you later receive a message that sounds like your own vow returning in another's voice, treat it as verification, not entertainment. Finally, assign the enactment. Before you sleep, schedule the smallest costly action named earlier at a precise time within the next lunar day. Put it where mountain air exists in your circadian map. Set the environment in advance. Remove every friction you can remove now. This is how you turn aperture into architecture. The gate does not reward urgency. It rewards exactness under charge. You have stepped, you have sealed, you have rooted the current into the corridor you built with unsentimental care. Stand in the quiet that follows and let the future feel heavy, not because it threatens you, but because for the first time it can land. The night does not congratulate you, it calibrates you. The room is the same, yet it refuses your former angle. The objects have rearranged their allegiance around the line you now hold. You can feel how the field has weighed your vow without flattery and found it serviceable. This is what passing feels like, not applause permission. A door you once begged to notice, you now swings because you carry the correct voltage to move its hinge. You are going to wake into a world that believes nothing happened. Let it. The portal does not convert doubters, it converts vectors. Your work from here is unspectacular fidelity. Lab hour protected like a temple, refusals executed without adrenaline, recovery achieved in under 90 seconds, enactments placed where mountain air is richest. Keep routing current through the small behaviors until the corridor becomes a road and the road becomes a habit you can no longer betray without the body ringing an alarm. You will be tempted to collect meanings. Don't. Collect capacities. The meaning will condense around them like dew on wire. If you feel emptiness where drama used to live, don't replace it with noise. That quiet is bandwidth. It is where prophecy lands without shattering the instrument that receives it. You are the instrument. You are also the engineer. Treat yourself accordingly. There will be errands disguised as revelations and revelations disguised as errands. Choose errands. Fold what you learned into the ordinary. Answer the message with accuracy. Build the system that scales your vow. Install a cleaner boundary where your kindness once leaked. The future trusts those who alter the mundane without spectacle. Spectacle is how timelines fray. Care is how they carry weight. If grief arrives for the versions of you that cannot come, seat it like a dignitary and serve it water. Do not let it drive. Farewells are taxes paid to cross sovereign borders. Pay once, with ceremony, then close the ledger. The lineage that trained you to survive has been waiting for someone to navigate. Survival was the initiation. Navigation is the office. Remember the sentence that does not age. I return without story. You will drift. The portal doesn't certify infallibility. It authorizes speed of return. Interrupt, repatriate, re-enter. A life becomes unrecognizable, not from one grand rupture, but from thousands of small returns performed before narrative can harvest them for ego. Now, there is one last instruction, given without romance. At the next threshold you cross doorway, sidewalk seam, station platform, place 2 fingers lightly at the sternum, let 1 breath pass in the 4-2-6-2 cadence, and step with the awareness that your body is a specification written by witness. Do it without theater. Do it because the corridor is hungry for the footsteps that match it. You did not come here to be chosen. You came to remember. You were already correlated with a future that required an adult observer. The lunar aperture has finished its part. It will open and close again according to celestial choreography. But choreography is not destiny. Vector is destiny. Magnitude is destiny. Consistency under charge is destiny. Walk. The signal will find you when it must. Until then, you are the signal. Hold the line, route the current. Make the world measurable by the precision of your gaze. And when they ask what changed, let your work answer in a language that outlives your voice.